Welcome back to Between the Silos, where we talk about sales and marketing alignment and why so many companies struggle with it. I'm your host, Jen Lawrence, CEO of Vi. Today, I'm joined by Dale Reether. Dale is our growth partner here at Vi. Dale describes himself as a marketer turned seller, meaning he not only leads our sales efforts, but also spent years working directly with clients on their marketing strategies. Having experienced both sides firsthand, he brings a unique perspective to the growth conversation, connecting the dots between marketing, strategy, and tangible sales outcomes. Dale loves helping companies connect their marketing efforts to actual business outcomes, and he's got plenty of stories and a few battle scars to prove it. Welcome, Dale.
Thanks, Jen. Excited to be here. What is this, episode 2 of Between the Silos? So, yeah, it's going to be a fun journey. I'm excited to be on one of the first episodes, and hopefully you have me back at some point.
Probably likely. Well, let's get into it. So we're here to talk about why leaders struggle to take the first step toward talking with an agency about a potential partnership. So let's head into our tales from the trenches. Can you tell me about a leader you've worked with who has been struggling whether or not to hire an agency to partner with to help their company? So floor is yours. What have you seen? What have you heard?
I have plenty of stories of leaders that I've talked to who are struggling with whether or not to invest in the agency partnership. So we'll pick one to start, but I think, there are common things that I hear from a lot of folks, and, I spend most of my day talking to, CEOs, directors of marketing, VPs of sales, you name it, that are really grappling with how are we going to hit revenue targets this year. So in my mind, what I hear, really, the question starts to shift from not should I hire an agency, it's should I invest, 100K, 200K plus this year in my marketing efforts. Because a lot of companies have been able to scale to where they're at today, especially in, some of the places that we tend to work, like B2B manufacturing, pharma, professional services. They've been able to scale through, their personal networks, referrals, doing cold outbound. And the problem with that is, the well starts to dry up, and often people are coming to us at that inflection point, right? Where they're starting to feel the well dry up, and they're like, oh crap, what are we going to do now? They probably should have started investing in their marketing a couple of years ago, to avoid that. But, hindsight's 2020. But that's usually, when we start talking to people, and, there's an uneasiness with it, right? They haven't spent those dollars today. It is a big investment. It's a big bet. It's not a flip of a switch. So it can be scary for some folks. So I think that's what I'd start to hear more so than the conversation of, is an agency the right move? I think we can talk about some of that stuff too, but I think the, overarching thing that I hear is, should we make this huge investment? And the answer is yes, but it's hard to instill that confidence sometimes, just because people haven't seen it work in the past. I heard from someone earlier this week, we've never landed a new customer because someone found us on Google or someone on our website. It's not super surprising when you're talking to someone that hasn't invested in the past, because that means you haven't done it, and if you have, you haven't done it right. So that's really usually the crux of the conversation I end up having with people, and it's really starting to explain how investing in marketing and digital and your brand is really positioning your company for long-term growth. Not to say you're not going to see some immediate results and some quick wins, but investing in a growth marketing strategy really has some staying power for you, and it helps you move to a more predictable pipeline outside of just relying on, am I going to get a referral this month, or is the sales outbound I'm doing going to work? Even in today's world, it's getting even more and more inefficient to be doing cold outreach. So the idea here is, like, invest in the long-term growth, get in front of the right people with the right message at the right time, consistently. And, that we want to be driving hand raisers that are coming to you saying, I want to talk to you. And, being a marketer turned seller, like when I see that come through, someone raising their hand and say, I want to talk to buy about becoming a customer, those are the exact opportunities that I want. And, that's what we want to be generating for our client sales teams.
Such an interesting point, and especially, your marketer turned seller. Do you hear, I'm leading you here, of course, do you hear ever that companies are comfortable spending $100K or $200K on a salesperson, and that's like very normal, even though they know it'll take them 6, 9, 12 months to really be probably producing anything. But marketing is seen so differently as like such a risk or such a big investment, and they're not sure on their return of that. Do you ever run into that where they're like, well, maybe I'll just hire a salesperson versus a marketing agency?
100%. I mean, same story I was just talking about, talking to someone earlier this week. That was one of the things that he brought up. And there's risk with all of it, right? Like you're making a bet no matter what, but, you know, with hiring a seller, you're not investing in the brand. You're constantly chasing that short-term gratification. It's not to say it's not important in an important piece of the puzzle. It is. But you need both working in tandem. You run the risk whenever you just focus on hiring salespeople. Are they going to be effective? Are they going to potentially leave in a year and take some of the relationships they've built with them? So, it's both, right? You need both of them happening in tandem and working together, which I think is, the point of this podcast, overall. But it's definitely something I hear all the time. Some people have even admitted, like, hey, when I would get more marketing budget, it's usually someone who is VP of sales and marketing. They just immediately start hiring more salespeople.
Yeah, it's wild. And to your point of needing both, I mean, so you're in it, right? Like you are trying to get new leads for Vi, and so you kind of are sort of at that central point where the importance of marketing and the marketing assets and how you use those as a salesperson. So going off script here for a minute, like what is that, or what are the things that are needed as a salesperson as it relates to marketing?
I mean, stuff like we're doing right now, right? That's kind of the point of, speaking from a company that's in professional services space. And then, I think it's important for all B2B organizations, but being able to, we're selling ourselves, we're selling expertise, right? So like getting these types of conversations out in front of the right people consistently is what is going to drive interests in our company, and people coming to our website saying, I want to talk to you. Those are the types of opportunities that close the fastest and close at the highest rate and have the highest average deal size, because you've already kind of trained them on, like, this is our methodology. They get it by the time they're coming to you, and they've probably already pretty much made up their mind that, if they're going to go with an agency, they're going to go with Vi, because you've taken that time to build that trust with them through, the marketing funnel. And I think even more and more today, it's more important than ever. The stat that I always go back to is 80% of B2B buyers, or they're 80% of the way through the sales cycle before ever reaching out to a salesperson. So essentially, they don't want to talk to me unless they're pretty damn sure that they want to work with Vi. So your marketing is really doing your, upstream selling for you, because people aren't there. It's information overload. They got a billion people calling them every single day. Like, people don't want that. They want to be able to have more of a self-serve experience when it comes to buying. They want to buy from people they trust. And how do you do that? You do that from effective content marketing and distributing it in the right places consistently.
So true, and such a good segue. Like it takes time. I think everyone is looking for the silver bullet. I need leads now. And like you kind of started off with, it's like you need to think about that long before you need them now, because you do have to generate content and you do have to put yourself out there and be thought leaders. And that takes a lot of time to do that over and over and over, so that when people are ready to buy, you come to mind. And so I think that it's such an interesting thing that we get it all the time where it's like, well, I need this many leads this month. But they have nothing to start with. There's no brand or thought leadership.
Yeah, you're putting yourself in a really tough position there because how are you going to get leads now? You either need to really lean on paid media, which is going to cost you money, and doesn't have as much staying power as some of the other things that we're talking about, or you're going to have to really lean on cold outreach. And both are ineffective whenever it comes to, I'm not saying it's never going to work, but your close rate is way, way, way lower on that stuff because these people didn't know you yesterday, they know you today, and you're kind of forcing that meeting. They probably weren't in market and they don't trust you yet. So it puts you in a tough position whenever you're relying so heavily on that to hit your goals for the year because it's time consuming, it's expensive, and it's inefficient.
Absolutely. So then the question, why do leaders struggle with it? Why is it so difficult for them to make this decision? It seems obvious to us, right? But to so many leaders out there, it's very anxiety inducing. So why is that in your opinion?
I mean, I think there's a couple of things that you pointed to the instant gratification. I mean, I think people think they're being successful just because they're getting new names into their CRM. But at the end of the day, if those names aren't turning into qualified opportunities and ultimately sales and new customers, like you're kind of just fooling yourself with thinking that that kind of activity is being successful for you. So I think part of it is they want to feel that instant gratification. I get it. It can be anxiety inducing to say like, hey, this might take a couple months for us, but once we get the engine going, we're going to be delivering way more qualified opportunities that are ready to buy directly to your sales team. I just think people have a hard time kind of grappling with that. I think the other one that I hear a lot is we've tried marketing before, but it failed. And then I start to really dig into that comment of like, well, what did you try? What kind of resources did you have against it? What was your strategy? And the answers I usually get back are not great, and it's some sort of, well, let's just smatter whatever we can against them all to see what sticks. And that's a very easy way to burn marketing budget quickly.
Oh, that one just pains my soul. We hear that one all of the time. I've tried it and it doesn't work. And it's, to your point, it's like not all marketing is equal, and it's not saying any of it is bad. One prospect we're talking to now is like, I've tried marketing, and to your point, like, what is that? And they're like, I made all these sales collateral, and I updated this one PowerPoint, and while that's necessary, it will never drive leads. It's not the same. It's not the intention of it. And so I think a lot of, companies, leaders really aren't even clear on what they're looking for. They don't know. Are you looking to generate leads? Are we looking to be thought leaders? Like, are you looking to just build your brand? And I think they don't know the answer to that. It's always, I don't know if I've ever been in a call where it's not all of the above. I want everything.
Right. Or you hear like, we just redid our website and nothing happens. Well, that's the equivalent of building a really nice store in the middle of the desert that doesn't get any foot traffic. That's it. So to your point, it's a combination of everything. And if you don't have everything kind of working in tandem, there's a lot of single points of failure that can happen. So I think a lot of people don't go into it with a clear strategy. They just do what we would call random acts of marketing, which is a big no. We actually have a slide in our sales deck that says in all caps, no random acts of marketing. They say, let's run Facebook ads, and they spend $2,000 and nothing happens. It's like, well, we're never going to do that again. And then they have that scar. So that's one of the big ones that I hear a lot. I think The other one that I hear a lot, especially in B2B conversations, is, "Oh, our audience isn't online." Like, what are you talking about? They're human beings at the end of the day. Everyone's online at this point. It's just about finding, where are they getting information and what do they care about? And, just because they might not buy online, that doesn't mean they're not learning and consuming information there. So that's another one that I hear a lot, which is kind of just like really?
That one is always classic. The other one I hear that's classic is like, our business is just way too difficult, way too complex. One, no one at your team would ever understand our business and how we sell, and we'd never be able to market that. Like, how is that? Well, then how are you possibly telling people about it? How would you have a conversation with a prospect if it's too difficult to even explain? Which is usually the problem, is like, you should be able to explain that clearly and effectively. And if you're not, you probably have a bigger problem on your hands.
Yep, for sure. And just another point on the like, my buyers aren't online. They don't buy that way. There's it's been something I have conversations with folks about all the time. The generation that is buying your services and products is becoming younger. And they do buy that way. So now is kind of the time, especially in, some industries that may have been slower to digital adoption. Now is the time to get ahead of that, because you are going to start having, buyers come into the fray that are online and expect a certain experience. And if you don't provide that, they're going to go straight to your competitor that does.
Isn't that so true? And getting ahead of that, I always hear people say, well, our buyers aren't there yet, and they're going to transition to that probably. And you're like, so let me get this straight. You want to start once they've already done that and they already have a different way that they're buying. Like, that seems counterintuitive, but we hear it all the time.
Yep.
So interesting. Okay, finally, hot seat. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Weekend catch up on emails or strict work-life boundaries?
I used to be a big weekend catch up on emails guy, but then I realized I have a really hard time compartmentalizing already. So put some work-life boundaries onto my life, and it's been a game changer for me. So.
Okay, We'll probably need to take a few pointers from you. Haven't mastered that one yet. Let's see, one other. Podcasts or music playlist curator?
I mean, we're on a podcast, but I got to go with music playlist curator. I got a new playlist that I create every single season of every single year to match the weather and the vibe. So big on music playlist curating.
All right, what's your style?
A little bit of everything. It's changed a little bit over the past couple of years. Randomly got into bluegrass a lot, which is not something I ever thought I'd say a couple of years ago. But the only I'd say everything except for like I can't get into the screamo, death metal stuff. But if good music is good music, I'm agnostic of genre, I think.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Appreciate your time, and thank you for joining us. And for all the listeners out there, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you always know when a new episode lands. Until then, don't forget, the best things to happen to your team will always happen between the silos. Catch you next time.